Hello, and this is Rob, also known as Failed Muso from failedmuso.com. Welcome to this first of what I hope to be many videos that are going to support my blog posts and reviews. And I thought it was about time that I did something like this, seeing as it does seem to be getting increasingly popular. So here we go. I'm going to join the gang. The first product that I'm going to use this for is the Emulation II sample library package from UVI. So we're going to go and have a look through that and show you what I've been playing around with for the last week or so and having great fun with. So the Emulation II library uses the UVI Workstation application, which is a free download from UVI. It comes with its own, I think it's 184 meg sample library to get you started. But basically it's a proprietary sample player that plays back the UVI libraries, which are a monolithic library format .ufs file extension, and these are sold and supplied by UVI themselves, and also Ultimate Soundbanks, which is their kind of sound library division. So the UVI Workstation is free to download, anybody can have it, and it works either as a standalone function as we see here on Mac or PC, and it also works as a VST, RTAS, audio units and MAS plugin as well. So pretty much all bases covered there. I did actually make mention in the text review over on the blog about whether this might ever appear as a propeller head Reason rack extension. It's early days yet. Rack extensions haven't been fully implemented as yet. And I have spoken to UVI and I'm just waiting to hear back to see what they say. The reason I asked this is that the more I looked at it, the more I thought this would really fit in the Reason rack very well. It's a 5 GB library. It's completely sample based, and I don't know whether that would fit into the whole rack extension ethos, but it's worth considering, certainly I believe, from UVI's point of view. And if I hear anything, of course, I'll let you guys know too. The UVI Workstation gives you a lot of functionality, but in a very simple way, so you don't really need to sort of delve into too much. You don't need a massive manual. In fact, I haven't even looked at the manual for this since I've had it, and it's very easy to navigate. Very simply, at the top here you've got 3 buttons that give you single and multi controls. So you can have single patches, or you can create multis from here as well. There's an options setting that allows you to tweak disk streaming and other little settings, universal settings. The little I symbol here brings up the browser, which we'll have a look at closely in just a moment. Just underneath there, we've got a drop down that allows us to choose which part we're going to load our patch into, and that allows us to stack a whole bunch of parts in the multi, so we can create some really big, evolving, impressive sounds just by loading up 4 different patches in here. And it doesn't have to be from the same library, it can be from different libraries as well. Also, you can set which MIDI channel triggers each part. And that's really useful as well, because it allows you to build up multis where you can have different instruments on different keyboards. So if you're a multi-keyboard player, then you can have different sounds across there. Or you can have maybe 2 or 3 people playing the same, playing different keyboards powered by the same instance of UVI. Then we've got the patch name area here, which also double clicks, gives us the browser. And then over here we've got some settings here. So the one that's lit at the moment is the scripted front panel, which we haven't got loaded at the moment. And then we've got the effects section where you'll get a rack of effects loaded in, and you can add to that, or there'll be the ones that come with the library, and you can tweak those yourself as well. And then on the right hand side here we've got an arpeggiator, which I might show you a little bit more of later. But this is a really useful feature, and this comes as standard with the Workstation, and gives you a whole level of expression that you might not always get with other sample playback devices. Anyway, down the bottom here, obligatory keyboard and modern pitch bend wheels. You've got a start, stop and loop and a tempo feature here. That's for the arpeggiator, and also syncs with your DAW if you load it as a plugin. The only minor thing here that I think is not really worth mentioning, but I'll mention it anyway because you'll probably look at it and think, well, what's that? It's just like a little news ticker, and it connects to the internet and you don't have to have it. Obviously, you don't have to have an internet connection, but if you are connected, it just scrolls through news events from the UVI website. You can click on those, or you can just ignore them. I've not found it to be intrusive at all. Top right hand corner, forgot to mention here, got a volume control and a little peak meter. So let's crack on and actually have a look at Emulation 2 in action. So we'll go to the browser, and you'll see over here on the left hand side I've got my sample packs that I've got loaded up in the UVI Workstation, and I've got Emulation 2 selected. And in the next step of the browser, we've got the main categories, and these are fairly familiar type categories. You've got bass, bells, choirs, drums, keyboards, percussion, strings, synth, winds and brass. And they've all got a little arrow next to them, and if you click on that section, it then means that they've got a whole bunch of sounds in there. So these are your bass sounds, and then these are your bell sounds, choirs and voices, drums, etc., etc. And you'll see that there's quite a lot of stuff in here. There's over 250 different presets in here, and of course you can tweak those to your heart's content. So let's call up one of these patches so we can have a look at the interface, because I think the interface is a really good key selling point of this particular library. It's very, very simple. It looks very nice. I like it a lot because it harks back to the original emulator front panels, in as much as they use a very similar font, very similar color style, and even the blue backing here has got that kind of hammerite paint effect, which was part of the Emulator 2's design. None of these sections, none of these features actually featured on the front panel of an Emulator 2 apart from the filter, but the filter didn't have this degree of control. So what we've actually got here is something a lot more than an Emulator 2 would have ever given us. We've got an amplitude envelope with the ADSR settings that we can mess around with, and a couple of switches here so we can go from velocity sensitive to no velocity sensitivity. And another useful, and I really like this feature, kind of reminds me of the settings I used to use in Axis, the Akai sample construction tool, where you can use velocity to attack, and it's just a nice simple little feature here. You just turn that on, and then what that'll do is it will, depending on the attack setting that you've got here in the amp envelope, and depending on how hard you hit the key, it varies the attack. So the harder you hit it, the sharper the attack, the softer you hit it, the softer the attack, and that can really give you some levels of expression that you might not normally get. Down here we've got the filter, again the filter envelope, ADSR, and we've again got velocity to attack here. So what that does, it opens up the filter depending on how hard you hit the key, and you've got cutoff, Q, and envelope depth in there as well. Every time you hover over any one of these sections, you'll see a little pop up with the setting just underneath, and you'll also see down here in this blank bit of the keyboard that's now gone blank, that if you hover over something you get a description. So again, the need for a manual, I've not found one yet. It works very, very simply. Over here on the right hand side we've got a stereo setting, which is a nice little feature. Basically it means that the patch that you've got loaded will either have no stereo settings, so it'll just be kind of a mono sound. You'll have an alternating stereo settings. That means that for every note you play, it will appear at random across the stereo field. It's not too extreme, so it doesn't sound really weird, and you can adjust that yourself using the spread function here. But you know, it's kind of a subtle effect if you want it to be, or it can be a bit more extreme if you like it, but it's effective nonetheless. And then you've got a universal setting, which means that it's kind of spread across every note and it's all the same. The mod wheel settings here allow you to change vibrato, tremolo and filter and assign those to the mod wheel, so just turning them on or off, and then the depth and the rate that you can control just very simply through here. The effects settings, you've got phaser, delay and reverb. These are just the three standard effects on the front panel, but you can load in any of the UVI Workstation effects in the background and use those. You just don't get the controls on the front panel, but you can very easily flip to those, and I'll show you that in just a minute. So you've got phaser, delay and reverb, and then you've got the mix levels, which are basically wet and dry. Finally, down here you've got the bit crusher, and that's a useful tool. Doesn't always work on most sounds. Sometimes it works better on others, and it really does. It dirties the sound up and makes it a lot more gritty. And you turn this on, and then you've got a bit control size, so you can knock it down and really destroy it, or you can completely remove it. You've got a frequency here as well, so that's the sample rate, and then the drive, so you know how hard it's doing it. Useful and worth messing around with. Some of the presets use it as standard, and you can mess around with it to your heart's content. Just to very quickly show you the effects section, so let's flip over to that using the effects button at the top here. You'll see that the patch has preloaded the phaser, the delay and the reverb, which are assigned to the front control panels, and also the UVI destructor effect here, which is assigned to the bit crusher. So that's standard stuff. But if you want to, you can add effects, and as you can see here, it comes with a wide range of effects, and that's just your delays there. Then you've got reverbs, and you've got impulse reverbs here as well, modulation effects. There's loads of stuff in here, and you can really make this stuff your own. Lots of EQ and amplitudes and distortions and dynamic filters and miscellaneous stuff as well, vinyl stuff and freezing beats. Yeah, we could get lost in there, but you get the idea. There's a lot of stuff that you can do here to make this stuff your own, which is really cool. So there's your front panel. That's very, very simple, and as I said, I like that simplicity. I also like the fact that it looks very authentic as well. Of course, this is not an official replication of an emulator and doesn't ever claim to be so. And if you're looking for an exact emulator style library structure, then you're not going to get that either. As you can see, this is their own library, and they don't say exactly what they sampled, but you can get a feel for what's gone on in here. And there's lots of emulators type sounds in here, and there's also sounds from other machines like Fairlights, D50s, DX7s, JX10s. I believe there's some stuff in here as well, but it's all very fitting. Again, I don't like to pigeonhole it in an era, but it does sound that it did come from about 30 years ago, but very, very good sounds indeed. So how exactly does this sound? Let me just make sure I've turned the arpeggiator off, because otherwise that'll spoil it. Let's go back and hear this. This is a classic Emulator 2 sound. The E2 voices used, I think, probably most famously on Depeche Mode's Enjoy the Silence. And you can click on here and go through each of these. There's some Fairlight type sounds in here as well. And I don't think you're going to be able to get the real effect of these sounds, but they really are very fulsome. There's a lot of bottom end in there, and you're probably not going to get that in a YouTube video, but trust me, I've heard a lot of Fairlight libraries and emulator libraries, because it's kind of my little hobby. I go out and seek this stuff because I love the sounds. And if you've ever heard a real emulator or a real Fairlight, you'll know that there's so much more to the sound that these machines produce. Now this, I'm not going to say that it's exactly the same, because it's not, but it's up there. It's definitely up there as being more than capable of reproducing these sounds very, very well indeed. Let's go back to the browser, see what else we've got. I like some of these fretted sounds that we've got in here. This particular one, very evocative of a sound that was used in Frankie Goes to Hollywood's Welcome to the Pleasure Dome title track. And that kind of plucked guitar sound was used all over in the 80s. That's really nice, that one. There's a DX7 type guitar in here as well. And there's other great sounds in here. Some of those really awful kind of electric guitar type samples in there. I say awful, you know, in the right context they can be very, very good. If we also look at the effects, and the effects section is really impressive because I don't normally go in for these sort of things, but there's a lot of stuff in here that's really cool. Pigs in Space, this is great. And that's all one patch, and it's just great. There's some really, really big involving sounds in here. And there's also stuff in here that's very simple, but can be used, you know, to embellish, or, you know, if you're into doing stuff with, you know, spots and effects, and, you know, this is really, really useful stuff. There's keyboard sounds in here, so you've got FM stuff in here. You've got electric piano, which, you know, sounds very familiar. And that's another great thing about this, is as you go through this library, every sound you sat here thinking, I know that, I know where that comes from, I recognise it, it feels very familiar straight away. Even the E2 grand piano. Yeah, it's not the most expressive grand piano. It's not going to be, you know, a patch on a proper sample library of a piano, but very nice indeed, and very useful. There's some really good stuff in here. And we go to the mallet. So obviously we've got stuff in here like this. I do like a good mallet. And what else have we got in here? The obligatory orchestral hits, and there's every sampler of the 80s had to have some in here. But happy to report that there is no real kind of Orc 5 or Orc 2, should I say, orchestra hit in here. You know, the classic Fairlight orchestra hit. There's lots of stuff in here. That's different, and there's some really nice orchestral hits. And some, you know, some variation in there, which is really nice. Lots of percussion, lots of drums, lots of synths in here. There's kind of D50 sounds as well. There's plenty to get excited about in here. It's really, really good. Lots of polysynth. You see there's ARP stuff in here. There's CS80 stuff. There's FM stuff. Lots and lots of really very, very useful sounds. I can't really say enough about them. They are very, very good indeed. I could sit here for hours going through this, and I did when I first got this, and literally just went through every single patch, and I don't think I could find one that I didn't like or didn't think could be useful somehow. So there's some really good stuff in here, but we just don't have the time. What I want to show you now is also Drumulation. So we've seen Emulation, which is the emulated keyboard type instrument. This is the Drumulator type instrument, based on Emu's Drumulator, which came out around the same time as the emulators. And let's load up one of those patches. Now there's over 500 drum samples included in here as well, so there's plenty to choose from. And the Drumulation was a very, very simple device. Basically gave you two 16-step sequences, as you can see here, and you've got some basic controls: tune, pan, volume, and some filters in there as well. Each step has 3 levels of accent. There's 0, there's soft, and there's hard, so you can choose that, bit like an 808. And what you can actually have here is 4 pairs of sequences. So you have the first 2 pairs, which are bass and snare, then the next 2, which are hi-hats and cymbals, the next 2, which are toms, and then the next 2, which are percussion. So you can have up to 8 sequences running at the same time. Each sequence has one sample assigned to it. You click in there and you get to choose the samples that you want to assign in there. As you can see, there's a lot of stuff to choose from, so plenty of variations to be had. And then you basically program in, just like an old-fashioned step sequencer. If you want to play the samples back through the keyboard, then you can. They're all there. And it comes with some preset patterns put in there. And if you want to trigger the pattern, you can either press C3 on your keyboard and hold it for as long as you need it, just like that. Or you can hit the run button here, and that latches, and then it will stay going. Now, the useful thing about this is that you can set a drum pattern going there, and then go into this part here, choose part 2, 3, and 4, and start playing something on top of a drum pattern. So it's a nice little sketch pad as well, which is very useful. There are about 21 different kits that come predefined in the thing, but of course you can make your own kits in here as well. And just to show you what some of these sound like as well. They take a little while to load because there's quite a few multi-samples in here. It's very, very detailed sampling, I must say. And show you some other kits in here as well while we're here. But as you can see, you know, they've really gone for the retro theme, and it works really well. They've not gone overboard. They've not done that awful thing that people do with 80s stuff and kind of gone overboard. It's clean, it's simple, it's functional. It looks like the stuff it's been designed to look like, and just works really, really well straight out of the box. So there you go. That's Drumulation. Comes free with Emulation, so you buy the pack and you get both instruments in there. So there you go. Without sort of boring you too much, that is Emulation 2 along with Drumulation. It comes from UVI. You can get it from UVI's website and also from Ultimate Soundbanks, which is their kind of sound library division as well. All the details are on the blog. They're in the post. All the links are there as well. It will cost you €179 or $199 US. Now that can be perceived as maybe being a little bit pricey, depending on what you want to compare it to. I think the price is justified, and I'll tell you why. I think it's justified because of the sound quality is very, very good. The programming is excellent, both in the sampling and also the scripting of the front panels here. I think the ease of use is just brilliant. Not just the emulation library, but the UVI workstation itself. It's just simplicity that covers up a great amount of depth and power, and also some great sounds that are just instantly usable. I can't wait to start messing around and creating stuff with this. I'm a Reason guy, as you know, if you're a regular reader of the blog, so this is going to be absolutely useless to me at the moment. I've spoken to them about whether it will ever appear as a rack extension, because that's a new emerging thing with Propellerhead and Reason. And fingers crossed, we'll get a positive response. I don't know what their plans are. I've put the question to them, and hopefully they'll get back to me with this. One thing that's worth mentioning is that it is iLok protected. So the UVI workstation is free, and you can download that today along with the sample library that it comes with, and start messing around with that. You don't need any protection, but the library, the Emulation 2 library, is protected by iLok. So if you haven't got an iLok key already, you're going to go and need to go and buy one of those. That cost me about £35. So if you want an iLok, you're going to have to factor that in as well to the price. If you've already got one, then fine, because those keys hold up to, I think it's 500 licenses. So worth considering overall as a package. I can't really say anything more than this, than what I've said, and also what you can read in the blog article itself. This is a great instrument. I've been waiting for something like this for the emulator for some while indeed. There are other libraries that contain emulator sounds, which are all very well and good, but this just adds that extra level of control and the look. I mean, this is a musical instrument. We should be more interested in about how it sounds, but it does look really nice, which is always pleasing. So it's a great sound library. It's worth, I believe, every penny that you pay for it, and I strongly recommend it. And I don't have a rating system for my reviews on the blog, but if I did, it would be a 5 out of 5. It would be a thumbs up. It would be maximum number of stars, whatever you want to say. Quote me on that. So that is Emulation 2 from UVI along with Drumulation, both using the UVI Workstation. This has been Rob Pericelli, and you can find loads more stuff about sample libraries and my general ramblings on the music industry itself, along with the forum, Reason Forum, song challenges, all the information there on www.failedmuso.com/blog. Thanks ever so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed that, and hope to see you next time.